Hello students, today we are going to study about a very important system in our body, that is respiratory system, which has shown a real concern in this pandemic. As we know, the function of the respiratory system is to perform the process of respiration. What is respiration? Respiration is the intake of oxygen and release down of carbon dioxide. But during this process, when oxygen is taken in, the breaking down of the food is also carried out, which results in the release of energy. Now, let's see what are the basic organs involved in the process of respiratory system. So first organ which we see is our nasal cavity. Nasal cavity is followed by pharynx, then it's followed by the larynx, then we have the windpipe. From the windpipe, then we have the two lungs, and below the two lungs we have a complete diaphragm. So these are the parts which are involved in the process of respiration. So let's take them step by step. The first part is the nasal cavity, in which the first thing that comes is your nostrils. So nostrils are the fine holes in your nose which help in the taking in of the air or the oxygen or the releasing out of the carbon dioxide. Moment the air is pushed in through the nostrils into the nasal cavity or into the nose, the hair present in the nose area, they tend to filter the air, carrying the dust as well as the germ particles. Along with the filtration, it also helps in stopping the germs to enter the pharynx area and then into the windpipe. After the air has passed through the nasal cavity, the air enters into the pharynx. So this pharynx, as we have already said, it's a passage. It's a passage which is connecting the nasal cavity and the larynx, and it's also a connecting passage between the nasal cavity and the oral cavity. In this pharynx, we have an important thing, that is your epiglottis. So epiglottis is a flap-like structure which helps in closing and opening of the windpipe while we are chewing or eating something. So the moment when we are chewing or eating something and we start swallowing the food, the epiglottis, which acts like a gate, or we can call it as a flap, it bends down and it closes the opening of the windpipe, which is just in front of the food pipe. So it helps in blocking the food to enter your windpipe. Below this, we have a larynx. So this larynx is also known as your voice box. It's also known as the voice box because as the air enters this voice box, it has a band which is called as the vocal cords. So these vocal cords present in the larynx, they contract and relax, and they help to create a sound that by the person. So larynx is playing a role of creating a sound in the body. From here, the air enters the windpipe. The windpipe, the other name of this windpipe is trachea. Now, this trachea is made up of fine cartilages or muscular structure which helps in the contraction of the windpipe. The length of this windpipe is about 12 centimeters in length and the diameter of this windpipe is about 2.5 centimeters. So from when the air has passed through the pharynx, through the larynx and into the windpipe, then it reaches two connecting tube-like structures which are entering into the two lungs. And these two connecting tubes into the lungs, or you can say the trachea dividing into the two branches, is known as bronchi. They are called as bronchi. So these bronchi help the air to reach the lungs. On reaching the lungs, the bronchi further divides up into small branches or very fine branches, which is known as bronchioles. So these bronchioles are then taking the air to every part of the lung on where the air sacs are present, and when the air reaches those air sacs, it is passed on to the blood capillaries. We can see the blood capillaries over here. So every body part is connected with the blood capillaries. So when the air reaches the air sac, from the air sacs the blood is transferred to the blood capillaries, and then that oxygen, that blood capillaries carry the oxygen to the different organs of the body. One thing we have to see is that this lung area is known as the chest cavity. This is known as the chest cavity, and if we see, the lungs are being protected in the chest cavity by the ribs, the bony structural structure which is known as the ribs. So ribs are protecting the lungs. Now, the lungs do not function on their own. They cannot show the contraction and expelling of the oxygen, expelling of carbon dioxide, or the taking in of oxygen cannot be done by them by their own, but they need the help of a structure which is known as the diaphragm. So it is the movement of the diaphragm and the muscles between the ribs and of the chest wall. It helps in the contraction and the expansion of the lungs. So this structure of diaphragm is the normal positioning of the diaphragm, in which the lungs are in the relaxing position and they have released out carbon dioxide. But the moment when they have to take in oxygen, the diaphragm becomes little bit flattened, and it helps in giving the space to the oxygen to the lungs to take in more of oxygen or the air from outside. So this is how all these organs together carry out the process of respiration. Thank you.